Is the presidential race in Michigan changing? Well, I found this article from BBC.com. Harris started, quote, like a rocket in Michigan, and now she's slipping. So, Marcy Paul is nervous. A Democratic activist, Miss Paul has been knocking on hundreds of strangers' doors, making phone calls, and sending out flyers, all in an effort to woo people here to vote for Harris. When Harris replaced Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee in July, Miss Paul was hopeful as she saw the vice president go off like a rocket in Michigan. The state is one of three blue wall states, along with Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, that went Democrat in 2020, and if won again, would help clinch a presidential victory for Harris. But with less than a month to go before Election Day, Harris's honeymoon period in Michigan would be ending, leaving her pathway to victory less certain. A Quinnipiac poll last week indicated Trump is leading in the swing state by 3 points. So let's talk about that. Is Kamala Harris's honeymoon period over? I would say that the signs point to yes, to the extent that she had one. You know, it was a big deal when she announced Tim Walz as her VP pick. The DNC convention was obviously very helpful for her. I think that one thing that might have blunted some of her momentum is the J.D. Vance versus Tim Walz debate. I think J.D. Vance did a lot better than expected. I think Walz did a bit worse than expected, though not super poorly. And yeah, so it's not that surprising that Trump would be leading in a few polls in the state of Michigan. Now, is Michigan the most important state? Not necessarily. Pennsylvania is probably the most important. But let's keep reading. A reliably blue Midwestern state for decades before 2016, Michigan has since become a battleground state with 15 key electoral college votes. At this point in the election cycle 4 years ago, the Democratic candidate Biden had a comfortable lead and went on to win the state by 150,000 votes. Now, it's a dead heat. So yeah, we have a difficult race on our hands. I think one thing that is possibly hurting in Michigan, even quite severely, is the Israel policy. A lot of Arab voters might be disillusioned with the Biden-Harris administration's policy on Israel, can't quite get themselves to vote for someone who is a part of that administration. That's an issue. And yeah, just the state of the economy not seeming as good as they'd expect it to be. At this point, there is no obvious solution for Harris to break ahead, said Michigan State University politics professor Matt Grossman. The Democrats have poured millions into advertising in the state. Harris's entrance into the race led to more than 100,000 new volunteers in Michigan, while she has visited Michigan more than any other state besides Pennsylvania. Harris is ramping up her campaign visits this week after at least 3 Michigan Democratic lawmakers warned of slipping support. But the tightness of the race in Michigan should not come as a surprise to anyone. Michigan Democratic Party Chair Lavora Barnes told the BBC, "No one operating here on the ground in Michigan should have or would have expected this to be easier than it has been," she said. "We always knew it was going to be hard." So yeah, this is concerning. Yeah, Michigan is important. It is hard to imagine Michigan going to Trump in some sense, in the sense that, you know, I'm from Michigan. I know that Trump was disastrous for the state of Michigan. He was a big outsourcer of jobs. We lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs under Trump, and we gained 800,000 under Joe Biden. That's a statistic that, if you live in Michigan, tell it to your friends who are leaning toward voting for Trump. But yeah, I mean, Donald Trump is incredibly ignorant when it comes to manufacturing. His tax bill actually led to some of that outsourcing, the tax bill in 2017. Obviously, it was very early on in his presidency, so there have been several years for that to take effect. And yeah, it was just all around not good for the state of Michigan. And yet, it is a swing state. Now, there are obviously some signs of it being more Democratic sympathetic in the form of Governor Gretchen Whitmer getting elected in 2018, getting re-elected in 2022. But that doesn't mean that a Republican presidential candidate cannot win it during an election. So yeah, maybe Kamala Harris would have been better off in this state if she had picked Gretchen Whitmer, although of course Tim Walz offers tons of benefits. But yeah, I don't know. Who do you think will win Michigan? I think it's really hard to say. I think it's a tougher one than a state like Wisconsin or a state like North Carolina, which is probably, in my opinion, going to go to Trump, even if it's considered a swing state. But yeah, let me know in the comments who you think will win. As always, if you liked this video, found it interesting or insightful, leave a like, comment, or subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to grow this channel and get out these election season videos. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next video.